Finally, the landmark Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision legalizing abortion nationwide was overturned 2 years ago. Democrat nominee Vice President Kamala Harris is the first candidate to run vigorously on abortion rights. Now, states can decide for themselves the legality of abortion. But what will the future of the pro-life cause be after a new president takes office? And why is there such division in the ranks of the pro-life movement months before this election? Here with answers, pro-life leader and the president of SBA Pro-Life America, Marjorie Dannenfelser. Marjorie, thank you for being here. The Trump position on abortion has really come under fire by some in the pro-life community, from the removal of the GOP pro-life plank in the platform to the former president's support and now endorsement of IVF. President Trump did announce that he would vote no on Florida's controversial all-trimester abortion amendment that would force Florida taxpayers to fund abortion, eliminate parental rights, and virtually allow abortion throughout pregnancy. Marjorie, what do you make of the overall Trump position on life, and how does it compare in your estimation to the Harris campaign?
Well, I can't say that I like any of the things that you just mentioned, except for the fact that he's voting against that amendment. Of course, any pro-lifer would not like to hear some of the things that have happened. However, I think it is a symptom of a lot of leadership in disarray in the Republican Party, and a concern and a desire to have a little bit of more space and time to try to figure out what direction. That's not leadership. I'm not giving any excuses. I'm just saying that is the reality. What he is doing is he is committed to protecting states' ability to express their own moral convictions on the abortion issue in the laws of those states. What we have on the Harris-Walz side, however, is the most dramatically pro-abortion platform that you could possibly put together. And that is that every abortion, all trimester abortion, would be the law of the land of this country. They will stop the filibuster to do so. They even want to put that in the U.S. Constitution. They want to make sure that the courts are configured so that we never have this opportunity again. That is the definition of existential threat. So you just have to do a side by side and go with the one that you know would stop all of our efforts to save lives and serve women in ways that they deserve.
Well-known pro-life activists like Lila Rose of Live Action, who has a podcast on EWTN, she advocates for a federal ban on abortion and sees anything less as an abandonment of the cause. On a recent podcast, she said Donald Trump's throwing babies under the bus. Marjorie, your reaction to that, and is that what's happening here?
I think you have to look at this moment like you look at every other human rights movement that's been successful in this country that was incremental. We don't love incrementalism because it doesn't please us completely. It doesn't please anybody on the left or the right, pro-choice or pro-life. But what the Dobbs decision did do was allow us to form consensus. That consensus makes its way into the law, and we're in the public square. The best argument wins, and that's what becomes law. We cannot impose our will, as much as I would like to pass a complete ban on abortion nationwide now, because the nation just wouldn't allow it to happen. We don't have the votes even close. We do have the votes for, say, 12 to 15 weeks. Again, doesn't please everybody, but I believe we would have it if there was a strong leadership at the top that actually articulated this. Every single state will have its own consensus, and there will be a consensus on the federal level. That's the way democracy works, and that's what the tools of the founders have helped us in every other human rights cause in our nation's history to protect human rights in the law.
Yeah, Lila Rose and others seem to be making the case that the Trump and Harris platforms on abortion are equivalent. Do you see them as being equivalent? And, I mean, would the pro-life movement be in better hands under a Harris administration?
They're absolutely not the same. In fact, again, Trump's position, the Trump and Vance position, is to protect states' ability to pass laws that reflect the will of those people. We obviously are for national protections. This is not what he's running on. The Harris administration would wipe out every single pro-life protection in this country, all trimester abortions in the entire country, even after a baby is born alive. even that baby you can't save. There simply is no comparison. And also the desire on the part of the Harris administration, if it were one, to reconfigure the courts to make sure that no Dobbs type decision ever came down again, that they reverse Roe. It's simply not comparable, despite some of the words that have come out of Trump's mouth that nobody likes.
Yeah, there's a lot of confusion out there. And look, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is my email box has been full of people saying, what does this mean? I'm confused by this. Are they saying I should vote this way or that way? And look, you got to vote your conscience. I mean, that's what we should say up front. But, you know, Lila Rose has said publicly she would not vote for Trump unless he issues more public anti-abortion statements, pro-life statements. Do you think Catholics will simply sit this one out and not vote? And wouldn't that essentially give the election to Harris, who we know, as you mentioned, is avowedly pro-abortion throughout all stages of pregnancy? What happened to the lesser of two evils argument here?
I think that's what we do. That is what democracy is. That's what we've done every single election that I've ever cast a vote. There was nobody that was perfect. And there are a lot of people who were clearly not perfect, way less than perfect. But we have two people to choose from. One will lead to the death of children. This is not something that should be a waiting game till we get the perfect candidate. The other will preserve states' ability to pass laws that will save lives and serve women. It's a real obvious thing. And the perfect being the enemy of the good has been a great difficulty in the pro-life movement for many years. And because we have ideals, high ideals, but we are going to have to work for it. And we have to make sure that we're communicating with the candidates exactly what we think and what we expect of them always.
Yeah, well, isn't this a case really of political ignorance? I mean, I see this kind of hard, I will not vote for this person until they do that. I mean, you don't have 100% majority you're working with, or even a 90 or 40 or percent majority. Yeah. You can't will a majority into being. And that, it seems to me, is the political naivete in all of this, Marjorie. There are some people who are demanding that politicians be more Catholic and more pro-life than members of the Catholic Church and leaders in the Catholic Church. So you're not going to get, they're not moral leaders. They're not spiritual leaders, boys and girls. These are elected officials. They reflect the will of your people. The problem is you had 5 decades to win the hearts and minds of your people, and you haven't done it. So I don't know how you expect a politician to sweep in and suddenly wave his hand and everybody converts overnight. It's not going to, there's a political calculus here, isn't there?
Oh, there is. I speak to Trump regularly. I speak to our Senate candidates regularly. I speak to members of Congress regularly. And the ones who are the most pro-life still understand that you cannot wave a magic wand and make the public believe what you believe. You have to convince them. And I am very encouraged. Actually, after this election, there's a lot of these conversations that I'm having. There's a strong desire to work together in unison with one voice for the pro-life movement moving out of this election. I'm actually very encouraged. But what will be very discouraging and actually will disable our ability to make any advances is if pro-lifers stay home and allow the election of people who want to destroy the Dobbs decision, who will pass one bill that would wipe out every pro-life protection in the country and disallow any others coming up. That is disaster, and that can't happen.
Yeah, I have some news to share. Polling about the Catholic vote, and I'm going to share that in a minute, but what you've seen from the Biden-Harris administration when it comes to the treatment of those who are pro-life, Marjorie, is really, I mean, it has been onerous. Talk to us for a moment about the FACE Act and how that's been employed against peaceful pro-life protesters for the last 4 years. I mean, we read a story this week, an 89-year-old concentration camp survivor, this Eva Edel, who is facing 10 years in prison by the Biden DOJ for violating an act of peacefully protesting outside a Michigan abortion clinic.
It's the most explosive story that isn't told on networks, except for this beautiful one. It brings you to tears. Just a couple of miles away in the Alexandria jail, there are people sitting there who were peaceful. They're peaceful protesters, but they also found the remains of very late-term children, torn limb from limb, one in a partial birth abortion, very obviously. There were fully formed children, and these lovely people found and would not allow them to be desecrated. And then also they wanted to go, the Department of Justice, to go after some law breakage with the partial birth abortion ban. They've used that also to imprison those people who rescued those sad babies. They call them the DC-5. It's such a tragedy. And yes, across the country, it really is a militaristic state that leads that we're headed towards. If peaceful protest, people just praying out in front of pregnancy centers are carried off to jail for their just exercising their First Amendment freedoms.
Marjorie, before I get to this new polling, for decades, your movement wanted abortion policy returned to the states. It was the Trump administration that made the repeal of Roe v. Wade possible. Now abortion's been sent back to the states, as we talked about earlier. But why do you think, why are members of the pro-life movement now urging its return to the federal level, a federal ban? Why?
Well, we voted. Well, the Kavanaugh's opinion, his concurring opinion, said this is going back to the will of the people, to legislatures, including the Congress. So I actually believe that it's important for there to be a federal minimum standard, that California can't go beyond, that Illinois can't go beyond, New York can't go beyond. It shouldn't be that the rights of California babies are nil and the rights of Alabama babies are 100%. So there is definitely a foundation and a standing, and there's a 14th Amendment that allows federal legislation in this area, and many, many members of Congress and the Trump administration supported a 20-week limit before Dobbs. It's the same country we're living in now, and I think that we are working towards that, but the blowback after Dobbs made it very difficult to build. I think we will get there, and we'll make it as strong as we possibly can.
Yeah, no, I hear all of this sort of stamping around and complaining by some leaders in the pro-life movement. But look, I see this as a failure of the pro-life movement and the Catholic leadership, to be perfectly frank. You had all these years to convert these people, to move them, to convince them, to open their eyes to the beauty, the preciousness, and the sanctity of life. You didn't stick the landing. Now you want a politician to come in and do your job overnight. Guess what? It won't work. It's not going to work that way. So I think there needs to be a deep reappraisal of all this because, again, politicians react to the voters before them. And these voters are telling them it's a pro-choice nation. Okay? Now here's the real horror of this. This is an EWTN Real Clear Opinion Research poll that's just released today. And there was a collaboration here. The survey revealed that Catholic U.S. voters, okay, they are, and this was an August survey, it covered 1,000 voters between in late August, the 28th to the 30th. By 50%, Catholic voters plan to support Kamala Harris for president. 43% support Donald Trump. 6% are undecided. When undecided voters are asked which candidate they lean toward, Marjorie, Harris's overall support increases to 54% to Trump's 45%. Perhaps the starkest statistic in the survey is this one. Female Catholic voters support Harris over Trump 56% to 37%, while male Catholic voters break for Trump 49 to 43. Your appraisal of what that is, that's a 19-point difference among Catholic women. Catholic women. What's happening here, Marjorie?
Well, you've made the case very forcefully, and you're right that we have a lot of work to do. One of those pieces of work that has to be accomplished is the communication of the reality of abortion and actually what abortion is allowed in this country. Most people, their understanding, and I think that leads to polling results that are skewed because people don't understand what the reality is. The reality is in this country, if you're in California, Illinois, you can have abortion up until the end. Absolutely. But people don't know that. And it is a failure of Republican elected officials to not communicate that. I think it leads to people thinking continuing to think, including Catholic women who are not looking at this. They think that abortion is just legal in the first trimester. That was the understanding about what Roe was. And that is a serious misunderstanding, because that's not the case. I think that when you communicate, when you speak into those populations, Catholic populations and any population, about what the debate is really about, it's not about a national ban. Right now, where the discussion is about whether there should be any limit whatsoever in any state or on the federal level. The more particular you get, the better the results are. That's what we've found in all of our polling in every demographic. And I think
we see it in we see it in Europe as well, Marjorie. I mean, they have 15-week abortions on abortion bans. I don't know why that's such a big lift here in America. But look, given the tight race, what's at stake? Which party, in your opinion, is closer to the pro-life position and more supportive of crisis pregnancy centers who do the actual hard work on the front lines, that they don't just sit around issuing statements and getting clicks, pro-life organizations lobbying on the state and federal level like yours, and backing protesters' freedom to allow their voices to be heard on this pressing issue? Which party at this point would you say would protect those rights going forward?
Oh, well, there's no question that the Republican Party has embraced this issue, and because it doesn't seem to fully, after Dobbs, do every single thing that we hope that should happen eventually, doesn't undermine that. It is still the pro-life party. We are our literally, as you can see, our party is that party is still finding its voice. Still after this decision that really affects so many people in this country. They thought it was going to be easier. It's not. It is a strong pro-life party. And when you compare it with the other, you know that it would be disastrous to wipe out 24 states' pro-life laws with the election of Harris and Walz. And that is exactly what would happen. There's no question about where the vote should be.
Marjorie Dannenfelser, we will leave it there, but I tend to agree with you. I think this was a movement that wanted this change. They wanted it out of the federal hands, but they had no playbook for what they would do on the state level, nor the coordination. And it seems the abortion side of the ledger had a playbook that they're implementing with great effectiveness, apparently. For more on the work of SBA Pro-Life America, visit sbaprolife.org. I'll give you the last word, Marjorie.
Yeah, they're on offense. We're on defense. There's no question about it. But there is also no question this movement never goes away. Our best laid plans perhaps didn't go exactly as we wanted, but there is, with every single life that is on the line, it is worth fighting for every single one, and there is no quitting. This election has to go pro-life.